Okay, so by the way, sorry about that, guys. Who did that a long time ago. But anyway, here's what I wanted to ask you a question. I want to ask you something, Reverend Harris. I have read your bio and you made the necessary corrections. Would you please tell us something about you that we don't know and we really should?
I really don't know what you don't know about me. It seems as though everything is on some form of internet. I guess one thing I guess you don't know is that I'm happily single.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Good one. Dr. Ailes, you're a returning guest. You've known the questions. I've asked you this before, but tell us something about you that we don't know and we should know.
I think that's kind of maybe an easy one. And you really should know this. One of the things that kind of fuels what I do as a minister each day. In 2006, unfortunately, I had lost the use of my kidneys, and for 3.5 years, I lived on the kidney dialysis while I was doing my MDiv. While I was doing my MDiv there at Alliance, and while I was doing my doctorate at Drew, in 2010, the Lord prepared, a living organ donor to come forward, and he donated his kidney to me in 2010. I was over 11. I'll be celebrating 12 years, June 17th, of organ donation as a life-saving tool. So that's what kind of fuels me each day. I've been on the path since then, promoting organ donation as a life-saving tool. And the scripture that is my basis is John 15:13. No greater love than this, than a man lie down his life for a friend. Thank you for asking me.
It's interesting you should say that because I just recently became an organ donor myself. So I haven't given any organs while I'm yet alive, but when I'm gone, they can have it all. I don't need it. I will not need it. So yeah, and I think it's very important because I do understand that the majority, but actually the majority of people who need these organ transplants actually look like you and I.
Yes.
We do not have a large a number of people who are making those donations, and so people are taking their organs with them into the grave where they can't use them anymore. So I thought about it and said, hey, you know what? I think I want to do that. And so I became an organ donor.
Yes, thank you, brother, for that and for stepping forward to become an organ donor. The last time I checked when I was doing my dissertation at Drew, the numbers were, I think, about 300,000 African Americans on the dialysis machine because of the shortage of organs. And we suffer disproportionately of organ failure, because of a whole lot of things, bad health, health care, high blood pressure, things of that nature there. So we definitely need it. Thank you, man. Thank you for asking.
No, well, actually, that's an excellent way of looking at this subject matter that we're talking about tonight, the way of transformation, because we're not just talking about soul transformation, we're talking about transformation of everything. And so that becomes a mindset that has to change in order for us to make that elevation, if you will. We have to be transformed in our minds so that we see things differently. And if things don't work out the way we think they ought to, we ought to change the way we think about them.
Yes. Because
let me ask you guys before. Can you get your video on? Because we can't see you, and you have no video on our virtual platform.
Yeah, I am doing the best I can. I am on my way. I am from point A to point B. I'm actually in the car driving from the college right now.
Okay. All right, just do your thing then. That's fine.
Get home.
Okay.
That's okay.
That's fine. No, that's good. We get you. As long as we can hear you, we can hear you fine. We can hear you fine. So this idea of transformation, this idea of And you said something as well, Reverend Harris, that also got me. You said happily single. Now, you have to be kind of transformed in your thinking in order to be happily single, happily anything right now. So how did you get to that point? How did you get to that point? You just happily single.
Well, I discovered that as I made more commitment to the Lord, I really didn't have time for a committed relationship. And so I decided that Christ was my all in all. And so Joyce Myers always say, bloom where you are. And so since the Lord is my partner, my everything, I have to be satisfied where I am until he decides to change the situation. So I'm happily single.
Gotcha. So you truly are the bride of Christ right now.
Yes.
That's good. I like that. Now, I'm glad, because I hope there's a lot of women on our line who will be listening to you so that they can understand that there is a place that you can go that actually is a place of comfort and of joy, and you don't have to have another person with you in order to be there.
That's very true.
I think that's a phenomenal thing. So Dr. Ailes, the question that I placed on the agenda for this evening that everybody is looking at, I'm going to also put it in the Facebook so everybody can see it on a regular basis. But this is the question that I'm asking tonight to engage our audience so that they'll be involved in the conversation with us. How have you seen, recognized, and acknowledged the presence of the Lord on the path that you now travel? I'll kick that off with you. And then I'll come back to, well, he might still be frozen. So Doctor.
No, I'm here. Got a question. How have I seen the presence of the Lord in the road that I am traveling in? Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Oh my goodness. Well, if that testimony was not enough in seeing the hand of the Lord, I'm down in Florida now, in the Tampa Bay area, having planted the Pristine Spring Hill Baptist Church in 2013. And coming from New York City, to the south was a transformative event for me, and not really knowing anyone in this general area. You know how you're sent, and you're usually sent to a team or a tribe that has already formed. Well, no, we was not sent to that. We were sent to a blank slate, and we began just following the Holy Spirit, preaching on Sunday morning in a tent in front of the UPS store on the main drag.
Wow.
Today, we are in a brick and mortar facility, and we have baptized several souls, and we have gained relationships with the city council, with the city school board, with the community colleges, and other organizations. And so I seen the hand of the Lord. I mean, just take a blank slate and take me, a poor boy from Harlem, and plant his church to do his will in a rural area in Florida. In the backdrop of Trayvon Martin and George Floyd, I've seen the hand of his work firsthand. And we are flush financially as well. Like, we are not, we're not hurting. We are not large, but I've seen the Lord do miraculous things through just a handful of people. One of the things, one of our main programs that I really enjoy, I see the Lord's hand in, is our Linking in Faith and Education program, whereby as a small little church plant, we was able to make relationships with the school board and the colleges, whereby we're able now to begin interjecting our faith. We're using our faith as a means and as a tool for success in education. So essentially, we're putting prayer back in the schools where it belongs.
That's a phenomenal testimony. I know about your testimony because I'm actually part of your growth and development, which I'm honored to do that as well. But it's interesting, my involvement has been little to none because the church is taking on a sort of like a pathway for itself in following the Lord's leadings. And you don't have to have that board that you had before to help organize it and sort of keep it together and give you the ideas and all of that, because it has taken on a life of its own, as you just explained. I think that's a phenomenal thing.
Well, I do have to say that the hand of the Lord really began before we got down here, and you were part of it. When we sat down on the second floor, Convent Avenue Baptist Church, and you introduced me to Send America. All of that was part of it. When we got down here, we got involved with the Tampa Bay Baptist, Association first. That was not where we were supposed to stay. That was just where we were supposed to get some more direction.
Right.
Where we were supposed to be up here right now doing what we're doing here in Spring Hill. But it was all a part of God's plan, and he used you earlier on. And absolutely right, being the board member, one of our very first board members of the Pristine Baptist Church. And we wouldn't be where we were and where we are now if it wasn't for you. And thank you for your leadership and your guidance.
Man, listen, you're welcome. It's just a plum pleasing pleasure to think that, that I'm a part of something that is reaching people for Christ and making a difference, helping them to transform. And that's what really, I guess, if anything makes me excited, is watching people transform and become who God really intended for them to be. That gets my juices flowing. All the other stuff that we do, that's okay. But when I see people transform, I mean, regular, ordinary people, when I see that light come on, it just does something to me. It makes me feel like, all of this, no matter how tedious, no matter how much time it takes, it's worth it. It's worth it. Just one, I'm just one soul, but then you start seeing a few of them, I just get overjoyed. And it's just a wonderful thing. Now,
go ahead. For those that are, just a little bit, further along, right? So we talk about transformation. It was one last huge transformation for me. So I was kind of raised and came up, ABC. For those who don't know what that is American Baptist Church, or the other association was National Baptist Church. So those are the two organizations that I was affiliated, and particularly the Baptist Ministers Conference of Greater New York and Vicinity. Those were the three that I was really involved with, along with UMBA. But coming down here, I had to get involved with the Southern Baptist Convention. Mm-hmm. And, that's a whole different transformation. We can continue to talk about that too. Go ahead.
Oh, no doubt. I know. But you know what? You when you're in transformation mode, you can find God on any path that you have to take, if you're willing to open up and allow him to reveal himself.
Let me tell you, it was the Southern Baptists, and I'll be totally transparent, came right alongside us as church plants, and I think monetarily as well, to the tune of a couple of $1,000s. Mm. So you're absolutely right, brother. You're absolutely right. You can see God move and anywhere. Yeah. Reminds me of Daniel when he was over there with Nebuchadnezzar and them. Yeah. See God. Yeah. And he probably didn't want to be with the Chaldeans, but you know, God's hand was there too with him. So yes, sir, you're right.
Reverend Harris, you know, you have some interesting history too. I know a little bit about you as well, you know, and I know that you are the pastor of Greater Fowl Chapel Baptist Church right there on 155th Street in the village of Harlem. And you're also the president of the Baptist Ministers Conference of New York and vicinity. And I'm kind of curious because both of those are transformational roles that you are playing. Can you talk about that for a minute? Let's start at the church, because you became the pastor of the church before you became president.
Yes, I became the pastor of Greater Fowl after being a member there for 21 years. As far as seeing God's hand, I can see how God took me from being an introverted person and bringing me full swing so that I now can talk to just about anyone in any place, especially when it comes to talking about his work and what God does in a person's life. I was very content to just be an assistant to Pastor Simmons, to teach Bible study and so forth. But bit by bit, he began to turn different things over to me. And at that time, I couldn't understand why. But then as he got closer to his retirement and so forth, I began to see, and of course, I began to talk to God about choosing someone else, because I did not see that position as being for me. I did not see me as being a pastor. Because like I said, I was not one, if you didn't say anything to me, I didn't say anything to you. I was not one that would openly talk, you know, but if you needed me to do something, I would do it, you know, and whatever. And God was very instrumental in allowing me to take on projects that transform other people's lives. Because I brought the Angel Tree Ministry to Greater Fowl Chapel. And then we started other ministries where we could, you know, meet the needs of the less fortunate and so forth. And then by being a school teacher, I was always interested in improving the life of the, I guess you say the lower realm children, because I always felt that anyone would be glad to teach what they would call the intellectual children. But the children who were struggling to read and so forth, the average person didn't want them because you have to work hard. Mm-hmm. But I like to see where I start and where they end up. And so as a elementary school teacher, I saw my children transform not only in school, but a lot of times in their personal lives. And I saw some of them come back to say thank you, or when they would be in the neighborhood and I'm traveling late at night, they would look out for Miss Harris. Mm. You know, they do that signal, that's Miss Harris, that's Miss Harris. So people knew not to bother Miss Harris as she came through. So yes, I've seen God transform my life as well as the people that he allowed me to come in contact with.
Hmm. That's amazing. You know, you said something which was, it kind of caught me, that Pastor Simmons had given you more and more responsibility that actually took you out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Regularly. He didn't do it much. He kept doing it over and over and over again. And because I've known you for a number of years now, you know, I knew you when you weren't the person that would talk to everybody. And I always start to go and talk, just walk up to you, just start talking in order to get you to talk. Yeah. But now I see a difference in you. I mean, a real difference, because you are one of those persons who, you know, not only will you share your thoughts, but you'll also share your thoughts with people to help them to grow and to enhance their own personal development. And that, to me, has been a remarkable shift in you. And even when you became a pastor, there was a shifting. It didn't happen all at once. There was a shifting. Right. And every time I see you, it seems like the shift gets better and better and better. until you just like, you just almost like an extrovert now. Everywhere, and now, and as the president of the conference, which is really just, an amazing feat. I was looking at a video yesterday. I showed it in worship service of, Shirley Chisholm, who ran first African American woman to run for president. And she says, so she has a quote that we quote her on often. It says, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring your own folding chair.
Yeah, yeah.
Put your own folding chair.
Yeah.
Now you're the president.
Now I'm the president, and it's my goal not to just be the first female president, but to be one that made a difference. Whenever I leave this office, I would like to leave it in such a state that people will be glad that I came along at the time that I came, because I believe that this is a God thing. This is not something that I ever thought would happen. This is another example of how God just put me in different places. I carried out what I was supposed to do in those places. And as they say, I came through the ranks. And so it's my goal now to please the Lord for allowing me to be in this position for such a time as this.
Yeah, yeah. And it is an interesting time that you serve, because we're sort of like, still in, not quite out of this pandemic that no one's ever seen before, anything like it. And leading at a time of a pandemic is certainly unusual and is challenging in so many different areas. And you have it in two places. Dr. Ailes has it in two places. He's not only a pastor, he's also a professor. He's teaching. So you are navigating these different calls in your life, and still helping to help people to make transformations for themselves. And as you know, being in New York and other places in the country, it's everywhere. I mean, violence and all of these sort of what I call psychosomatic situations are propping up everywhere. And a lot of it is because people really are becoming unglued, as and the pandemic is just bringing it to the surface. And you're leading in this at such a time as this is quite impressive, to say the least. It's quite impressive. So I tip my hat to you, for sure.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear you say that, that it's interesting time, because you really don't have any mentors that you can go back to and say, when you were in this situation, how did you handle it? It's like we're all learning this at the same time, Yep. Some things we can fall back on a little experience, but mostly we have to depend on God to speak to us and lead and guide us in everything that we do.
That's right. That's right. Because we have nothing to go back and say, listen, we don't know.
Right.
People learning how to use these new technologies. What we're doing tonight is a new technology. When I first started doing this, I was doing it on radio. That's why it's called the radio show, because it was done on radio. And then I ran into a technical issue one evening, and I could not get into the studio. And it was all electronically done, but I couldn't get in the studio. So one of my frequent callers said, well, why don't you do a Facebook Live broadcast? I've never done that before. And I did. And that evening, I saw something phenomenal take place. Like 700 people joined in immediately. They're like, well, I think I'll be doing this forever, because that was an amazing feat, because I maybe 30, 40 people, on a weekly on the radio. But that was amazing. And then this thing, and it's interesting, right? I wrote an article recently, and I said that a storm brings up things that would not ordinarily be discovered when it's calm. Who knew about Zoom before the pandemic? It took that crisis to dredge up, and now this is a part of our everyday life.
Most certainly is.
And I don't think we could not have made it through this pandemic with any sense of normalcy had it not been for formats like this. And there's some others, but this one has really caught on. And so we're learning how to navigate in a new kind of paradigm using tools and equipment that we never even knew existed.
You're so right. Yeah.
So how about in let's in the church, there's been things that you've been doing in the church that are different, but how has your transformation that you talked about, Reverend Harris, went from, from you being, this introverted person to you being this kind of, existential, not an introvert, but an extrovert. How has that helped you in your role now as pastor? And then I want to talk about as president as well.
Well, as pastor, it has helped me to be more compassionate to the people. I'm one that don't like to be hugged. And so as a pastor, you have people that constantly want to hug you, sometimes they want to kiss you, and so forth. So that definitely took me out my comfort zone. and so, yeah. Now we can shake hands, I might pat you on the back, but when it comes to hugging and so forth, that really took me out, and so forth. And I have a nice group of people, loving group of people. And so that also helped bring me more out of my shell, as you would say. And I thank God for them, and so forth. And they also helped with learning Zoom, because as you say, when COVID hit, I basically had to learn Zoom within 2 days,
right,
in order for us to have service, because I felt that the conference call wasn't sufficient. I felt that because of what was going on, people needed to be able to see one another, not just hear. And so Zoom has made a big difference in that. And we have, I have 2 Bible studies. I have a Tuesday night Bible study, and I have a Wednesday from 12:30 to 2 for the senior citizens, which I had prior to. And so we were able to continue that study like that. And we also do church school on Zoom. So it's like we kept God's presence in the midst of everything that was going on. So we were always able to share with one another God's word and the challenges that we were having, and we could support one another. And you could see each other's expression. And so forth, where when you're talking to someone on a telephone, you can't necessarily feel what they're thinking, right, and their sincerity.
Right. So your physical presence, the visual presence, is there for you for the most part. Most of the people, even the seniors, are using Zoom effectively because they're coming on and they're actually showing their faces and stuff. That's good. That's good. Because a lot of people are not necessarily engaging it fully. They're just using it as a conference line. So
every now and then you have some people who will block themselves out, and they say, I didn't feel like combing my hair today, or I'm not dressed for Zoom today. And so you can understand that. And so you'll say to them, well, the next time that you come on, maybe you will feel better, and you will feel like dressing or combing your hair and so forth. So it gives you another opportunity to encourage people.
Yes.
Because this COVID period was enough to make the strongest person depressed, and so forth.
Dr. Ailes, talk to us a little bit about how you have worked through and are dealing with the transitions, if you will, of COVID in worship and other areas of your life, also in educational areas.
Thank you, Reverend. Thank you for asking that question. The pandemic, like you said, any kind of storm has a way of revealing, things that, just was not there, or you did not think that was there. before. And we're suffering through two pandemics actually at the same time, the pandemic of COVID, and then on the heels of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. And it was certainly spiritual as well as emotionally impactful. But just as Reverend Harris, we on the religious side and the ministry side, we had already been tinkering with Facebook Live and YouTube, and so for us to make the transition there, that was not too big of a transition because, like I said, we had already been streaming, kind of tinkering with streaming live, on Facebook. But on the school side, we went right into Zoom mode. I think it was like the second week of March in 2020. And we created what we called the Lifeline, Linking in Faith and Education line. And we did that in order to keep all of our students and all of our stakeholders, together. And what happened when we did that, we noticed that we were able to make a greater impact, even and a greater reach. What do I mean? So we started out right there in Spring Hill, Florida, but now the Lifeline consists of 4 counties right there in the Central Florida area. And people call in from New York and as far as the Philippines. Yeah, and we've been in doing this type of, and I call it instructional ministry. Now this coming Thursday, it will be 105 weeks. That means that for the past 2 years straight, through every holiday, through every summer, we have not missed a Thursday, and the Lifeline is actually growing. We've had professionals on there from the mental health field, certainly pastors. So in that segment, individuals come on for that 1 hour, they get a word, and then they get mental health information. We were on the cutting edge when the testing, the testing period came about. We were on the cutting edge of what kinds of tests to get for Moderna and Pfizer, and then we were on the cutting edge of administering vaccinations. Last year, this time, we were administering the second dosages, as a matter of fact, and that was all by way of through the Lifeline. The Lifeline on Thursday mornings have become church to some people who, and they have said, like, they don't even go to church, but they can't wait to get to the Lifeline on Thursday mornings. Reverend Harris is right. It's something about, just to be able to, see one another, and hear one another, and get the support, and just to know that somebody else is there with you. You're not the only one. And that whole networking experience is just phenomenal, and you can't put a price on it.
I love it. I think that's great. And I know about the Lifeline. I mean, you actually, thank you for the invitation. You've had me come on the Lifeline a couple of times already in the past year or so, and I thought it was an amazing fellowship, amazing fellowship. So thank you for doing that. Thank you so much, Reverend Harris.
Yes.
There's a quote that I came across. Young lady by the name of Annie Gottlieb. said this. She says, it's so hard when I have to, and so easy when I want to. And I thought about what we were talking about in terms of transformation tonight. And that quote kind of struck my heart, because when we resist the change that the Lord is trying to make in us, it becomes difficult. But when we allow the blessings to flow, the transformation that the Lord is trying to make with us, not only is it easy, but we really want to do it. So I was thinking, and I'm not sure whether or not it's more pastoral or more presidential leadership, but how has your transformation allowed you to take those things that were hard for you, and now they become not only easy, but things that you desire to do?
Well, as it relates to the conference, I see when you have those low periods in your life and you allow God to walk you through them, to comfort and guide you, I would say, it helps you then recognize these things in other people. And I find that I'm able to just start like a conversation without pointing out to them exactly, what's going on. And so I find a lot of times, just because you take a little time with people that you would not ordinarily just talk to about anything, it begins to make them feel better. And I guess you say it gives them some hope. And it started me to thinking about how I could bring in, as Dr. L said, about mental health, because we have so many pastors and ministers that are walking away. And so how can we come alongside? That's what I was thinking. How can we come alongside? How can we introduce a lecture or a workshop in the mental health area, so that without pointing a person out, that they could sort of begin to be at least introduced without any shame to services that they might benefit from. And so right now, that's my goal, to bring in people and workshops and so forth to help them, through this. Because as I said, this has been a depressing 2 years, you might as well say. 2 years without seeing much hope.
Yeah.
And we need a breakthrough.
we need to invite you to the Lifeline, Reverend Harris.
God bless you.
in fact, yeah, no, I'm serious. But well, Reverend Dr. Russell just said he's been on a couple of times, and we would be, honored not only for you to come on, just to get some information, about mental health, but if you can, put it in your schedule, come on, and like I told you, so we have a word segment, right in the beginning. If you was to come on and bless us, with a word every now and then. We're on every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. We would love to have you.
Thank you so much for the invitation, and we'll talk about it.
One of the things I had said earlier, I talked about, and I appreciate you sharing that too, by the way, with this idea of mental health. Mental health is an issue that's always been near and dear to my heart. I don't know if you know it or not, but I used to work for the Department of Mental Health. And so I worked at Manhattan State Psychiatric Center and had a couple of different roles to play over there. But mental health is something I've seen very, up close. Never in my own household directly. In other words, there was no one in my household taking medication. That doesn't mean that they didn't mean they didn't need it. It just means that they weren't taking any medication. Nobody was diagnosed with anything. So, but I think about, those things that we can change, we should change. But then there's some things that we can't change, although we know they need to be changed, but we can't make the change. We can't change them. And so what you just said to me is that if I can't change those things, then at least I can do is change the way I think about those things. So if you look at somebody who like ministers and pastors burning out and they're leaving the ministerial role, right? They're literally walking away, whether they're pastoring or not. Well, then, if we see it as an exodus, and that the only thing we can do is clog or sort of put a barrier on the exit door, then that may not be good enough because people will find a way around it. But if we see it as a cry for help, and then we begin to provide those different types of services that give them the help that they need, then perhaps they're leaving the ministry will not be them quitting on the ministry, but going to another form of ministry. Does that make sense? So if I can't change the way I see it, or I can't change the way it is, then if I change the way I view it, then perhaps I can change the way I minister. And in case we're talking about ministry, any other area as well. But if I'm looking, I say, well, look, maybe pastoring is not the thing for me right now, right? It's just something that's overwhelming me, but I still feel a call to ministry. Well, ministry is not just preaching from the pulpit, as you rightly know, because when we met, we were both associate ministers and we were not leading any congregations, and we were there helping and being supportive of our pastors and leaders. And that's what I'm talking about. What other areas of ministry can one be involved in to be fully engaged in ministry without necessarily holding the role that you had before, whatever that role may have been? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm listening to you. And then it takes me back to the foundation scripture that you use, coming from Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6. Lean not to your own understanding.
Yeah.
And so sometimes there are things that we don't understand. And so therefore we have to depend on God. But we have to be willing to hear what he's saying, right, and then apply it to our lives. Sometimes people are not willing to change their situation, either because of finances or because of what people think they should be doing.
Right.
And so therefore, I don't want to disappoint them. Yeah, you got a lot of people that's in ministry because some older person told them many years ago that they looked like a preacher, or they sounded like a preacher. And so therefore, they don't want to disappoint that person. But I feel that if God has truly called you, that whenever you find that you have hit a rock in a hard place, he's the one that we go talk to. He's the one that we ask for guidance, and I really feel that we can go to as many seminars as we can find. But if God is not in the seminar, it's not going to help us. And so we have to make sure everything is God-centered.
Absolutely. That is so beautiful. I'm going to use that as a transitional period. I'm going to use that as a segue. And I want to read the article again so that everybody's on the same page. And then I want to talk about those things that you just said and the way in which I wrote about it in the article. Whatever path that you find that you're on, that God is there, but you have to allow him, you have to acknowledge him, you have to see him, you have to recognize and then embrace and acknowledge his presence so that he can direct your path. So I want you to listen to the article, everybody, listen to the article from that perspective, because I think Reverend Harris just brought out a very wonderful perspective. So as you listen to the article, hear as the Lord speaks to you about your path and where you're going with it. So give me a moment. I'm going to read this article again.
Or depend on Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6 from the New King James Version. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. The way of transformation. As I thought about transformation and how it is achieved, I was drawn to these verses. The significance is direct and compelling. People take many different paths in life, each trying to determine the right path for them, the way that will take them to their place of comfort, happiness, and success. No two paths are the same for any two people, yet everyone follows their path with the hope of finding solace, pleasure, and victory. Sometimes, when we are on our path, we rely heavily on our education and training to lead, to guide, and to show us the way. But verse 5 instructs its readers to trust the Lord, not superficially, but with their entire heart. It says that they are not to lean or depend on their own understanding. The verses do not identify a specific path, but a specific process. Verse 6 takes the directive to trust the Lord and applies it to every area of your life, regardless of the path chosen. Whatever you are doing, wherever you are going, whatever way is chosen, the directive is to acknowledge the Lord. In the Hebrew language, the word way is derek and means a course of life, a process of action, a road, a path, a journey, or a direction. Derek is the course or the path of life one chooses to take. But the scripture, while not identifying a particular path, does say in all, any and every way that is taken, we must recognize the presence of God. If the presence of God is seen, recognized, and acknowledged, he will direct them on whatever path they have chosen. Proverbs 16:3 confirms this directive by telling its readers to commit to the Lord whatever they do, and their plans will succeed. There is a much debate in the world about faith and how one comes into relationship with the Lord. While every belief system has their own understanding of that process, this scripture affirms that the Lord can be found in any path that is taken, but only by those who trust in him with all their hearts, lean not on their own understanding, and acknowledge that the Lord is present on the path. That's when you will be transformed, given direct access to the kingdom, and your way made straight. Be blessed. And so tonight, here is my question. How have you seen, recognized, and acknowledged the presence of the Lord on the path that you now travel? Can I ask it again? How have you seen, recognized, and acknowledged the presence of the Lord on the path that you now travel?
Now, before we get back and pull us together and begin talking again, I want to just make sure that everybody's on the same page. And I want to, matter of fact, let's just go ahead. I'm going to stop my share. And let's just go ahead and pull you guys back in. And let's go ahead and start that conversation. I'm going to ask that question of you that I've asked of the audience. And then we're going to talk about the article from the perspective that Reverend Harris, you brought forth. But how have you've seen, recognized, and acknowledged the presence of the Lord on the path that you now travel? So you talked about, this looking at the works that you do or the things that you're doing, and recognizing that you may be on it because somebody told you that you needed to be on it, but it wasn't God led. And they find themselves there, almost like stuck in the mud. And they can't quit because they don't want to embarrass themselves or the person that told them they should be it, because somehow or another they took what that person said as the gospel for them. But if it wasn't their call, they could be doing the wrong thing for all of the right reasons, but it's not right for them. So what do you do when you find yourself on a road, on a journey that doesn't belong to you? What do you do?
Well, I feel that the person needs to be able to search themselves and be willing to face the reality of what's going on and to seek out help. Because today we have a lot of mentors and life coaches that could help you walk into what it is that you are actually a place that's comfortable for you. And I feel that in order to be successful in anything, you have to feel good about it. You can't be doing it just because it's work that has to be done. You have to feel good about it and the people that you're involved with. And so, as I say, a lot of soul searching has to go on. And once again, this is where you begin to talk to the Lord, meditate on his word. And I put down, looking at the scripture that you use in Proverbs 16:3. And I said that scripture brings us back as a conference, because we were actually organized as a fellowship for pastors to participate in. And so on Mondays, they come together, they fellowship with one another, they get a word. There are times when we get the lecture, they might get new ideas on how to teach the Sunday school, but there's something where they are able to focus on what's going on. Now it's up to them if they apply it to their lives or not. But this scripture reminds us that we are women and men called by God to do a work. He didn't necessarily tell us which media to use, such as he didn't necessarily, when he called us to preach, he didn't necessarily say, I want you to be a pastor of A, B, or C church, but he says, I want you to feed my sheep. Right. And there are many ways that we can feed the sheep, but that calls for love, that calls for confidence, but most of all, it calls for guidance from God.
You know, that's so interesting. Now, you know, I worked in a support capacity, and I was in full-time ministry. You know, as a church finance consultant, and then a strategy coordinator for the Southern Baptist Convention, which both of you mentioned.
Yeah.
And so, you know, what I came to know as a Baptist in our circles, oftentimes, if you're not preaching from the pulpit, you're not in ministry.
Right.
That's as far from the truth as anything I've ever heard. Ministry, there's so many different areas of ministry that one can be involved in. And I was too, because when I used to do that work as a strategy coordinator, as well as the church finance officer, if you will, or consultant, you know, people would ask me, well, can you pastor the church? And the answer was no, because I'm in full-time ministry in this area. So I would consult and counsel with churches all over America. My territory was the Northeast, and the Northeast for them was anywhere from Virginia to Ohio to Maine. So that was my territory. So anyone in those areas, I would be the one that they counseled with. Well, that required a lot of time, right? Pastoring a church locally requires a lot of time. And if you can't commit to that time commitment, then you shouldn't be in that arena, because you can misguide people, or you're too tired and then you can't think straight, and you can put people on the wrong path because you're tired. You know what I'm saying? So that may not be the path that you need to be on at the moment. I read a short story. Listen to this. This really blew me out the water. This is good. It says, look, in a small town, one wintry Sunday, the snow fell so heavily that no one came to church. The pastor was about to go home when a local shepherd walked in. The pastor said, I'm sorry, sir, but your trip has been a waste of time. Since there's no one else here, we will not be holding services today. The shepherd, surprised, said, Pastor, I'm a simple man, and I have dedicated my life to my flock of sheep. When I go to the barn, I whistle to let them know it's time for food. Most of the time, all of them turn up, but sometimes only a couple, or just one turn up. But even if only one comes, I make sure that one sheep isn't hungry. I am responsible for them, no matter how many of them need me at any moment. That is my calling. Then he asked the pastor, what is your calling?
Hmm.
Realized his mistake. Without a word, he stood up, went to the altar, and started the service.
Yeah.
You know, if you're committed to doing that, then do that. That's what the Lord has called you to do. Whether or not there's 100,000 or one person, it doesn't matter. What did he tell Peter? Feed my sheep. And the shepherd gave him a great example. He said, if only one comes, then that one should not leave hungry.
Yeah.
We
Because
are
you were waiting for many more.
absolutely, absolutely. So I'm only going to serve if I get a bunch of them,
Yeah.
right? And if a bunch of them don't come, then all of them going to starve.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's some of the attitudes that we have. And so I look at the things that we've been called to do. We've been called to ministry. As the president of the John L. Scott Associate Ministers Auxiliary of the United Missionary Baptist Association, it has been my mission to help the ministers, what I call find your voice in ministry. And my objective is to open up pathways that they can begin to see different areas of ministry that they can be involved in and fully engaged, because they may not ever become a pastor of a church. They may not ever become the associate pastor or assistant pastor of the church. They may not be called to preach on every Sunday or any given Sunday. Some of our ministers, as you know, don't preach for months, some for years, every now and then.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
May not be the area that God called you into ministry for. But if you don't know what he's called you for, then you can't, because you know the path that you're on. And so in my article, I say that you need to see, recognize, and acknowledge God on whatever path you happen to be on, and he will direct your path. Dr. Ailes, what do you have to say about that?
I think both of you are hitting the nail right on the head there. One of the scriptures that come to mind, and you all probably will know where to locate it right now, then better than I can. But the scripture about the higher hand.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a higher hand, you know where your level of commitment is. And unfortunately, and this is just unfortunately, some there are those who get into the ministry only to draw an income, and that's kind of like where it it stops. And if they are not drawing the income, that's where they stop. And they like Reverend Harris say, walk away. But the one who is not a higher hand, that one will be there to feed that even if it's just that one sheep. And the calling for the one who's not a higher hand, it certainly is not one for the faint of heart.
Mm-hmm.
It is not. It's not. It's not one. It's not one for the faint of heart. If you think it's that, then it's not that. You might as well go ahead and become a mailman or something like that. But this is a true calling. But my question I have is, if I could, Dr. Russell, that's what happens for those who are in a calling where they should not be.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens for those who are in their calling, sure enough doing what the Lord called them to do, But then they got those who want to come along and knock them off their, path for like whatever reasons. One of the reasons might be, women preaching in the pulpit. What do you do there? How they handle that?
Good question. Reverend Harris, you wanna jump on that one?
Well, I'm always, when I get in sticky situations like that, I remember that Jesus said, in this life, you're going to have some trouble, but I've overcome it all. And then I also remember that the prophets, they most certainly was doing what God had called them to do. And they met opposition in just about every place that they went. Rarely did people just ordinarily accept them. And think about all those that was beaten, those that were run out of town, and people that was called heretic. But that's when we have to say, I know that the Lord gave me this calling, and I know he has given me what I need in order to carry it out. In other words, it's not going to be easy, but he has given you everything that you need in order to get the job done.
Yeah, he's thoroughly equipped you.
Yeah.
And I think he puts you in positions, it's not, I read something, I was doing a lot of reading today, but I read something else that says, if you look at your life and you see a crack, in the structure, it doesn't mean that you failed. It means that you had a crisis, but you didn't crumble. You're going to be challenged, but you didn't succumb to the challenge, or you didn't succumb to the pressure of the challenge. You rose above it. So you didn't fall apart. So what did you learn? What did you learn during that experience? Because it's not what things happen. In the world, they say a little differently, but things happen. And when things happen, it's not so much the thing that happens. What do you do with the stuff that happens? If you let it destroy you, then that's what it is. It's a destroyer. But if you let it build you, if you look at that and say, well, Lord, this was on my path and it shook me. But what is it? Why was it on my path? What was I supposed to get out of that thing? And do you know that the Lord will reveal it to you?
Yeah. Everything that we go through, there's a lesson to be learned. Whether we learn it or not, sometimes he has to present it a different way.
Yes.
So that we can get the lesson, because a lot of times we really expect everybody to love us, everybody to be obedient to us, everybody to make our path smooth. But once again, we have to go back to what Jesus' life was. He definitely was carrying out what his father wanted. And John was called to be the forerunner. And there were times when life did not look like that they were doing God's work. But if we are faithful to the cause, and I mean, something might be ready to knock on my door right now as far as trouble. And so how would I handle it? Would I handle it as if this is something that God wants me to learn in order to strengthen me to continue on my journey? And that's how we have to begin to look at things, that everybody's not going to love us. Everybody's not going to fall into place like they should. But as long as what I'm doing, God gets the glory out of it, that should be what matters.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Rev. I mean, absolutely right. That our objective is to glorify God, to edify his people. When we do that, it's my prayer all the time, that God will be glorified, people will be edified, and Satan and all of his demons will be terrified.
All right now.
Because that's the objective, right? Because if we allow the distractions to become the focus, then we've lost sight of the objective. That's a problem. Because if our objective is to glorify God and edify his people, whatever distraction happens to come up, it's only an obstacle. it's not the focus of our attention. And if we focus on the obstacle, then we've lost our perspective.
Mhm.
And that's a very scary thought, that we're literally on a path that the Lord has set for us. And that's what you asked, Dr. Ailes. The Lord has set us on this path. And an obstacle comes up, and we begin to focus on the obstacle and miss sight of where we're supposed to be focusing. And we lose our perspective. So if I'm a woman and I'm preaching, the Lord has called me to preach the gospel. Preach the gospel. He didn't say preach the gospel from the pulpit. He said preach the gospel. So you may go to a nursing home. You may go to a hospital. You may become a chaplain. You can, there's so many paths to take. You know, but if you want to stay stuck on that one path, then you may miss the mark, because the obstacles are too much for you to overlook. There may be another path available to you. Be open for that. Be open for that. You have to see the possibilities in the impossibilities. You know, someone once said, you know, I like to do what people say is impossible. That's how I get to do it.
Mm.
So what can we do to help others to become more focused, so that they can hear the voice of the Lord? They can recognize that he's on the path that you're on, that he set you there, but his guidance is with you. It's with you. See, if you don't know that, then the obstacles become more than distractions. You start picking up the obstacles and carrying them with you, and they become your burden.
Mm.
They're not yours. They were on the road. They weren't yours to begin. Why are you picking them up? Why are you picking up, carrying rocks? We're picking up boulders, put them in your bag, carrying them down the street. You can't even walk no more. Back's hurting you. You know, you got a headache because you're carrying this big old load that didn't belong to you in the first place.
Yeah, so true.
So, you know, I think, you know, it's interesting whenever I sit to write these articles, you know, the Lord begins to talk to me, and I preach these articles, you know, I preach these sermons, and they actually take on life after, you know, with the sermonic pieces. But it's very interesting when I think about how we choose the paths in which we walk. And as you talked about, Reverend Harris, that sometimes we choose paths because of other people's opinions.
Mm-hmm.
We're not listening, not looking, not hearing, and not observing, not recognizing, nor acknowledging God on any of the paths. And so frustration sets in. People are doing things that they don't want to do. They're in occupations that they really shouldn't be in, and they've been in all of their life. They've been working there for 20 and 30 years and never have liked it. And they've been frustrated all of their life, all of their working career. And they're on this path. And it's even worse when the path is in ministry, doing God's work. Let me do this. There's you know, I put the question out there for the audience and stuff, and there have some people who've been sort of responding to what we've been talking about. And I want to see if I can bring in some of those comments. Let me see. Emery, if you'd like to share something from your perspective, please do. I'm going to look at some of the comments that were made and see which ones are appropriate to bring in now. And if anybody else has anything that they want to contribute to this, if you put it on the chat on Facebook, I'm looking at it now, and I'm going to bring in some of those comments. Let's see. Darryl said, I acknowledge the presence of God through my testimony, because God is good to me. I talk about God so much that anyone who is in my presence for any length of time is going to hear about how good he is, what he can do, what he wants to do, how much he loves you. How can we be so blessed by God and not talk about him? I think that's pretty good comment.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and Michael says, because somebody, everything with the Heavenly Father is a preparation. And then he says, seeing the Heavenly Father, the change and transformation, the ultimate miracle we can seek from the Heavenly Father is a way of total transformation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Darrell says again, the instruction Joshua gave to the people about following the ark reminds me of how God is leading us now. Joshua,
Mm-hmm.
the people, that when they see the ark moving, being carried by the priests, get up and start following. But keep back because you've never been before where the ark is taking you. That's how it is with us now. This is new territory, and we can't do things as we used to. We have to move it, and we have to follow it, and not try to anticipate where it is going or should go. We just have to be yielded to being led. What do you think about that? I think that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's pretty good too. But I think that the challenge, with that is the human condition, right? Yielding to being led is not always, easy. I think in that narrative of the Hebrews, some of them wanted to go back to Egypt, where 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 they were used to, different the herbs and the spices in slavery.
Right.
So if bringing it now to 21st century's perspective, there's still those with that slave mentality almost, where it kind of makes transformation difficult. Take January 6th, for example. I mean, we don't talk much about it, but people are still suffering mentally from that. I mean, there was like several law enforcement officers who committed suicide so yeah, it's not always easy.
No, it's not. It's not always easy. In my sermon on yesterday, I talked about I mentioned it as an obstacle, but one of the roadblocks that appear on the road that we're traveling is, and you mentioned it, Dr. Ailes, and that's why it came to mind, is our propensity to sin, our natural leaning towards sin, our sin nature.
Human condition, yeah.
Spiritually, emotionally, financially, all of those things. And so our propensity to sin will throw us off course. So even when the Lord is trying to give us some direction, our propensity, our natural inclination to sin will make us veer off the path and go somewhere else. That's the scary part.
I mean, historically, that's like so true. I mean, Adam and Eve showed their behind. Moses. I mean, how could you? I mean, how much closer can you get? Oh, Noah. He showed his, like, literally, where his sons had to back up and cover him up. Moses, like, how much closer could you get? To a burning bush. He says he was the one that talked to God face to face, and he showed his behind. So, and I can go on and on. David, Solomon, forget about it, and so then Peter and all of them walked directly with Jesus and denied him. Where the last day, the only people that was at the cross was those three women that I just preached about on Sunday. That's why I give such credence to women. But that's human condition.
Yep. Yep. And watch this. Of those standing at the cross, those at the cross, at Calvary, the three women, John, and one of the thieves on the cross. Right?
Yes, sir.
Recognize that.
Right there. You right there. You right there. You right there.
That one thief on the cross said, when you get to your kingdom, remember me.
You preaching.
Now, I mean, you know, how much more do you need? You're on the cross. You're about to die.
Yeah.
You don't know who this man is. He said, listen, we're here because we deserve to be here. This man has done nothing. But listen, when you come to your kingdom, please remember me. So the path that we are looking for, that we're trying to find, that will bring us that sense of solace, that sense of peace, that sense of comfort, the victory, that path can be found anytime in your life as long as you're willing to embrace it.
Yes.
Always available to you. It's never been taken away. We're the ones who pulled our hands away. God never did that to us. Never. He said, I'm looking for you to be transformed. I want you to, think about transformation and what that really means. It means that we are being conformed to the image of God himself.
That's right.
So that when he looks at us as sin-filled as we are, he doesn't see us, he sees him in us.
Yes.
It's like having x-ray vision. Look through all your muck and mire, all your filth, and glory that's in you. And it says, okay, come on up. Now bear in mind, now listen, I saw this today too. Some of us, and we were talking about this yesterday in our spiritual enrichment hour. That's what we call Sunday school, spiritual enrichment. It's not Sunday. We're trying to enrich people, trying to add something to them, like putting eggs in the cake mix, right? Once you get it in there, you can't take it out. So we enrich them. So the interesting thing is that there are some people who just want to make it in. We got a wonderful gospel song, right? I just want to make it in. Just want to make it in. We sing that stuff. I don't want to just make it in. I want to be in it completely, because you do know that there are some fallen angels who were there and lost their place in glory. I don't want to be one of them.
Come on now.
I don't want to be one of them. I want, in fact, the Bible says that I don't have to die to have everlasting life. I get it the moment I believe.
Yes, sir.
So if I just want to make it in, then that means that my life is up for grabs. Right? If I don't have everlasting life, if I'm not now converted, if I'm not transformed in the land of the living, then how can I be transformed when I die? I need to have that now. If I'm transferred now, if I'm transformed now, then that means that everything that I have, God's given it to me.
Yes, sir.
Right? Now, when I'm translated from the land of the dying to the land of the living, I get my crown. And if I've done good works, Paul talks about a reward. Then I'll be rewarded not because I worked my way to glory, but because the assignment that he's given me, I've done. Paul says, I've finished the course. I've kept the faith. Now is laid up for me a crown of glory. Well, when you transition from here to the land of the living, you can get your crown of glory. And if you've done great things, the Lord will reward you accordingly. I think about the crown, the jewels in the crown.
Yes, sir.
You have 5 or 6 jewels because you've done your job. You didn't divert from the path. You saw obstacles, but you didn't let your obstacles defer you, nor did you let them deter you from the goal. You followed the path because he says, trust in the Lord. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths.
Yes, sir.
So what is it that we're looking for? What are we waiting for? What do we need in order to understand that God, from the Old Testament to the New Testament, has always desired that we be transformed and in his presence?
Yeah.
He's never swayed from that. He's never changed that.
Yeah.
Dr. Russell, you said something earlier. You said because of our propensity to sin, and sin simply means that we miss the mark.
Right.
And we miss the mark because we're always interpreting what should be,
Right.
rather than relying on the Lord to direct and show us what should be. And so I don't have a perfect model as to what it looks like to commit my life to God. And so therefore I do things that I think should be. But then when I go back to Proverbs 16:3, and I'm reading from the NIV, it says, commit to the Lord whatever you do.
Right.
And he will establish your plans.
Right.
And so if my plans are connected to what God wants and what God desires, and he gives me the structure for that, he's going to bless it. And then in that same Proverbs, verse 32, it says, it's better to be a patient person than a warrior, one with self-control than one who takes a city. So sometimes we are so busy doing that we miss what it is that God would be satisfied. And sometimes we finish the job and don't even realize that we finished because we're so busy doing what we think should be done. And so I think that's how we miss the transformation. Absolutely. Because we're being transformed, but into what we think we should be.
Right. Isn't that amazing? We're literally taking the clay ourselves and trying to fashion it into the thing that we think it should be. And God to fix us up. Think about the two sisters, Mary and Martha.
Yeah.
Right? Well, why don't you tell her to help me? I'm gonna do all this work. No. She's doing the better thing. I'm not taking that away from her. And you can have that too.
Yeah.
Work's gonna get done. But please set aside some time. You know, there's a song that used to at Goodwill, my home church. Brother Johnny Hendricks, who was our musician, he used to sing a song. Lord knows, I'm one day, one of these musicians that I know, hello, y'all, gonna teach me how to sing at least one song. If I can sing one song, I'd sing that song all the time. But this song I love, really love this song. He said, you ought to take some time out and praise the Lord. You ought to take some time out and praise the Lord. Praise him for the blessings he's given to you. Praise him for the problems he's brought you through. You ought to take some time out to praise the Lord. And that's so true. All of the lyrics of that song are so true that we haven't really just thanked him, even for the obstacles that come into our life. The distractions actually give us a better perspective if we are listening and leaning on the Lord and not looking at it from our own level of understanding. He is giving us a new sense of strength and direction so that we can actually be the persons that he wants us to be. But we fight that tooth and nail. We don't want to change. We like this person that or at least we think so. Now, Reverend Harris, you said that you are happily single. And then you talk about, you said that you discovered that the closer you drew to the Lord, the less you had time for human relationship, intimate relationship with another human being, and that you literally have become the bride of Christ. Now, and I mentioned it to you, I said it earlier, but I want to ask you to tell it to me again. How in the world does a person get to the point that they say, you know what? I'm giving my life to the Lord, And you know what? I don't need to be in relationship with anybody else, and I'm completely content inside stuff.
And not only that, before you answer, I really need to know that answer. You know why? No, seriously, because not only because of you too, right? Because I know you we've known each other for years, but just to be really transparent, since I've been in this ministry, we've had one of my most dedicated members to go home to be with the Lord, but he was also the husband to the wife and to the widow who remains. And recently she said that, she didn't want to come to the church anymore. She didn't feel comfortable because of most of the people who are in the church are married. And, I wanted to say, yeah, I understand. But I also wanted to say, you're really not supposed to be there for other people and looking at what other people have, but you're supposed to be in a relationship and being married to the Lord. But let me know if I said what I should have said, or should I have been a little more sensitive and, say, all right, let's pray for a husband for you.
That's a hard situation. First of all, you really need to sit and talk with her more to find out why she feels so uncomfortable. Because I remember growing up and hearing that people didn't want to be bothered. Married people didn't want single women hanging around because the other women always felt that the single woman was after their man. And so if you was a divorcee or anything, you definitely was sort of looked down upon. But that's not my case. My case is that whenever I'm in a relationship, I like to give my all in all. And I find these days, I don't like cooking. Okay. I like coming home. I either stop and eat, or I bring my food home and eat. There's no one there to say, when are you going to cook? What are you going to cook? Because I've given, and when I say I'm happily single, because I really have committed myself to the work of the Lord. And as I said, I'm not going against if God decides at this point of my life that I need to be married. I'm open to it, but I'm not out looking for anybody. I'm content with doing God's work, coming home, relaxing, doing my schoolwork. Listen to all the stuff that you say you're doing. I'm doing all of that stuff and more because I'm finishing up my doctorate. There is no time, quality time, to give another person. So the first comes from me to the Lord. And all the other stuff I have to do, no one can comfortably fit in there at this time. So when I say I'm happily single until the Lord changes the situation. So it's not no big, oh, I got this under control. It's what it is for now, and I'm content. I'm not grumbling, I'm not complaining, and I'm not wishing, and so forth. So that's how it works for me. But you can also show that lady how Anna, once her husband died, she spent her time in the things of God. Didn't she live at the temple? Mm-hmm. And so forth. So it's like sometimes we have to help people to get comfortable where they are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Really good answer. I like that.
I like that too.
Because sometimes, in sort of getting involved in the work of the Lord can be that one thing that the Lord sort of opened the door of opportunity for you, when that person was removed from your life. And I understand that. I really do. Personally, I understand it because, you know, I don't know if I would have be willing to follow the call of God in my life had not my parents died so early in my life. You know, because, you know, I wanted to, as a child growing up, and they did die when I was young. And my mom died when I was 14 and my dad when I was 20. But when I was a kid, I always wanted to buy them a house and do things for them and, you know, really just do and make them proud and give them everything that they couldn't give themselves or give us. But when they were no longer there, well then, you know, many of my ambitions were based on them. They asked me, but because that's what I conceived in my own mind. Now they were no longer there. So what ambitions do I have? So I had to look, and then of course, I'm trying to find my way as a young man, not having a dad to talk to, a man to talk to. I had uncles, but they saw me as being an independent young man. So, oh, he's doing great. So, you know, they didn't talk to me because they thought that I had it all together. You know, that happens, right? And I guess I had a good facade. You know, I looked like I had it all together. I was scared to death. And so eventually, I remember praying, saying, Lord, I need to get back to church, and I need to find a church that can teach me because I need to get to know you. I remember saying that prayer. And when I came home that afternoon, my next door neighbor was at the house. He said, why don't you come go to church with us? They're having revival. I was like, are you serious? And I went. And so, you know, from that point on, I was like, okay, do you want to? No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. So I went back the following Sunday. The revivalist was still there. Now, you know, normally that doesn't happen, right? The revivalist preaches the revival. And on Sunday, you go back to normal worship. But he was in. And he was from Memphis, Tennessee. And he was a fire and brimstone preacher. You know, like, yeah, you don't turn your life on, you're going to burn in hell. Kind of thing. And like, I was like, wow, two times in a row. So I got up and gave my life to the Lord at that point. But I asked him for that. And so the question becomes, you know, when you ask for something, do you really mean it? Do you really mean it? And then if you mean it, what are you willing to do to get it?
Right.
Are you willing to look foolish? Are you willing to do what your friends tell you you shouldn't do? Are you willing to do what your mate says, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? I don't know. I ain't married no preacher. But that calling was real. And I often wonder if my parents had lived, what path would I have taken? You know, because in my life I was in business, I still do business, you know, but would my ambitions had been different? You know, would I have what I call sold my soul for a nickel or a dime in order to be successful?
Yeah, that's something to think about. Could I just quickly share this poem?
Please.
This poem is written by a man named Thomas Kelly. And it says, trust in him, ye saints, forever. Neither force nor guile can sever those he loves from him. Keep us, Lord, oh, keep us cleaving to thyself and still believing till the hour of our receiving promised joys with thee. Then we shall be where we would be. Then we shall be what we should be. Things that are now nor could be, soon shall be our own. This is letting us know that when we wait on the Lord to mold and shape us, we'll be what we should be, we'll be where we should be, and nothing can separate us from his love. That's sort of like that Roman scripture.
Right.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
I believe we're where we're supposed to be. When we're supposed to be there. The challenge for us is to acknowledge that the Lord has us there for a reason,
Mhm.
even if it's painful. You know, the pain didn't come to kill us, came to strengthen us. You know, and some things are painful because it prepares us for what's ahead that we can't even imagine.
Yeah.
You know, so we go through the painful process in order to prepare for what's ahead that we cannot see. You know, I often talk about I like, and this is, it might sound morbid, but I enjoy doing homegoing services, funeral services. That's an area of ministry for me that I really enjoy doing because I can identify with people who've lost loved ones
Mhm.
quickly, suddenly, over a period of time. Because in my house, in my household, in my family, we lost so many people over a short period of time, including my mother and father. You know, that I learned how to sort of deal with grief and dying.
Mm.
And so when I do a funeral service, um, I can identify with the people, and apparently I do it well because
Mm,
directors keep calling, you know, asking me, "Would you do? Yeah, yeah. Are you available? Are you available? Yeah." Because the people are saying, you know, that was a phenomenal, you know, a very comforting, whatever it is, but they appreciate it, and I do too because I don't take credit for it. I'm just glad that your Lord uses me in that way.
Mhm.
You know, so whatever the path is, just recognize that the Lord is on the path. He's in on every road, in every situation, all of the time. But will we accept it and will we embrace it, and then will we be able um, to maximize our time in that space? Okay, so listen, we're almost out of time, y'all. Almost
Mhm.
out of time. So let me ask you, if you will. I'll start with you, Dr. Ailes, and why don't you give us your closing remarks, and I'll ask Reverend Harris to do likewise, and then I'll close out with some things that the Lord has placed on my heart.
well, this has been rich. I really want to thank you both for having me on the panel this evening. We have a discussion about God and calling and where we need to be, and that scripture is just so foundational. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trusting in the Lord with all of our heart and leaning not toward our own understanding, and in all of our ways, just acknowledging Him, knowing that, and let Him, direct our paths. It's so profound, especially for such a time
Mm.
as this. I would just only pray uh, and ask for prayer for for all of us that still deal with the human condition, whether it is a personal issues, situations, or circumstances, or ministerial uh, situations and circumstances where just where the human condition and flesh comes into to pray to play. I remember the Lord God asking God to not take us out of the world or
Mm.
take us out of that material thing, but to pray that to keep us from the evil one. And that's what my prayer would be for closing remarks. Once again, thank you so much. And Reverend Harris, Ms. President, once again, it's just an honor to be on the panel with you this evening. I will be using the wisdom that you shared with me tonight, perhaps, talking to, the young lady a little bit more about where, about where she is. But you are certainly a phenomenal woman, woman of God, and one that other women, could emulate. Being married, to Jesus Christ. What does that really mean for all of us?
Yeah.
Blessings to you.
Yeah.
And thank you, Reverend Dr. Russell. This show has been going on for quite some time now.
Yeah.
And you're right. It has been one that has kept all of us together, even through these several pandemics. So keep it up. Matters of Faith, and your article is powerful. Keep writing and keep broadcasting.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. From Harris.
Well, I thank you for inviting me to be on this show tonight. And Dr. Els, it's good seeing you and hearing the many accomplishments that you have received in your life since the last time I saw you. It shows that God can separate us, but he has a way of bringing us back together. And people of light minds, somehow we always seem to arrive at the same circle. And so, yes, we have to keep in mind that we need to be on the right path. We need to always be aware of God's presence and sensitive to where he's leading and guiding us, and trying to be obedient to all that he wants us to do. And so with that, I'll say good night.
Well, don't say good night just yet. Just stay right there. Let me close out with these words that the Lord has placed on my heart. But I really appreciate the both of you. I really, really do. The truth of the matter is that we're all striving to be the best we can be.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, we're not looking to be better than anyone else, just our personal best. Whatever path we take, we are looking for our lives to be enriched spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially, and personally. People take on many different paths in life, but whatever path is taken, when they come to that crossroads of life, their decision on which one to take is determined by their desire to find the right path for them, the way that will take them to their place of comfort, happiness, and success. While no two paths are the same for any two people, everyone follows their path with the hope of finding their own sense of solace, their own sense of pleasure, their own sense of victory. Many times, while on our path, we rely heavily on our own emotional, educational, and training to lead, to guide, and to show us the way. But in verse 5 of the scripture text, it instructs its readers to trust the Lord, not superficially, but with their entire heart. It says that they are not to lean or depend on their own understanding. Now this is interesting. Neither verse 5 nor 6 identify a specific path, but points to a specific process. Verse 6 takes and says to trust the Lord. Since it does not say which way to trust, the implication is that in every way of your life, regardless of the path chosen, you are to trust the Lord. The directive is that in whatever you are doing, wherever you are going, and whatever way we choose, we are to acknowledge the Lord. In the presence of God, and if the presence of God is seen, recognized, and acknowledged, he will direct us on whatever path we have chosen. If we acknowledge the presence of God on our path, on our way, he will reveal himself and direct us on our chosen path. He will reveal to us the way of transformation. My guests tonight have enlightened and enriched our understanding of transformation. They both have, they embody the way of transformation in their ministries and in their lives. Both have stepped out of the routine and are living examples of people who have been transformed, not just a little bit, but completely transformed. They have taken off their masks, not the mask that shields us from COVID, but the masks that are worn to hide our identities, the mask that camouflage our sins and make us appear better than we actually are. They can now uncover themselves because they are wrapped in the glory of God and washed in the blood of Jesus, who now works in and through them. Y'all heard it for yourselves. So thank you, Reverend Geraldine L. Harris, soon to be doctor, pastor, and president of the Baptist Ministers Conference of New York City and Vicinity Incorporated. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Emery Ailes, professor, pastor, Renaissance man, and certainly the one whom I love, because you are transformed and you do that lifeline and you keep that thing up. Now, this is the third time that Reverend Ailes has been a guest on Matters of Faith. Now, Reverend Harris, I need you to commit to coming back so that you can at least catch up with him. Now, I just want to give you a heads up. I want to bring the three of you, the three presidents of these three conferences together. I don't know how I'm going to make that work because one conference meets on Monday night. But I need to have the three of you on together because I want the world to see what's taking place in New York and how transformation really works when you allow God to do his work. But in all other seriousness, I thank God for both of you tonight. What a blessing. What a blessing. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. We're still in the Lenten season. So let me encourage everyone to not just fast from things that are overindulged, but find the way of transformation. Listen to this quote. It takes courage to push yourself to places that you have never been before, to test your limits, to break through barriers, but do it anyway. Now, don't forget our sponsors, the JLR Company, J. Law and R Consulting, LLC. For all your church financial needs, call 718-328-8096 or visit our website at www.jlawandrussellconsulting.com. That's www.jlawandrussellconsulting.com. It's not about the castle, it's about the kingdom. And don't forget Matters of Faith, the book, and my Cash app, $ Matters of Faith. The book is $22.80, which covers shipping and handling. Or get the ebook at www.smashwords.com/books/view/993-177. That's books with an S. And if you use the coupon, you'll get a 50% discount. Call Neighbors Home Care at 718-515-2200. Training is free, and there is a fully unionized job waiting for you at the end and completion of your training. Triumph Physical Therapy for all your musculoskeletal needs. Call Triumph before you take that pill or you schedule that surgery. 212-234-2900. And please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Telephone, text, email, message, any way you do it. Tell a friend to join us next week on Matters of Faith. Now, I cannot tell you what the topic will be because I only know it when the Lord reveals it to me. But I can tell you this, you don't want to miss it. We will be on Matters of Faith and J. Law and Russell's Facebook live groups at the same time, 8 p.m. And we'll drop it, this session tonight, we'll drop it on our Matters of Faith YouTube channel as we do every week. So subscribe, like, and share it, please. Now, the Lord bless you, the Lord keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. If no one has told you this today, let me be the first to say, I love you, and there's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. So get used to it. God bless you all, and good night.
Good night.
Amen. Blessings.